Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jaxon Talks Everybody. With me, your host, Jaxon Stone, and I have a returning guest here on the podcast. You've seen him with some of my other friends from college. You've seen him on a solo episode. Now we are in his home state here in Colorado. Currently, we're in a nice little house in Woodland Park, Colorado, which is about, would you say, 30 minutes from Colorado Springs?
Not even, yep.
But yeah, so a little less than 30 minutes from Colorado Springs. Came out here with a few of my friends and my lady to just enjoy the mountains, some nature, some snow, different vibes. And so Tyler lives in Colorado Springs, so he came out to hang. We just had some lunch. We also went to Garden of the Gods earlier, which was really beautiful. But I welcome back my good friend, my good buddy, Tyler Shannon, to the pod.
Good to be here. Good to be here. Thank you.
Love you, man.
Love you too.
So you know what question I'm going to ask you. I think everyone knows what question I'm going to ask you. This is episode number 82 of the podcast. I think I've been starting off the podcast now in this way for maybe the last 50 episodes or so.
I'm doing good.
And no, come on, dude, come on. And this last solo episode you saw Tyler on was I think it was titled Decade of Stone. We did it right when 2020 hit. Mm-hmm. So now we're in January of 2022. Wow, January 20th to be exact, 2022, episode 82 of Jaxon Talks Everybody. Tyler and I have been friends now since 2012. Right, that's
Is that right?
That's when because you got to South Dakota State as a junior, right?
Yep.
Which is 2012, because then you graduated 2014.
Well, 15, yeah, but I did, yep.
Well, stopped playing ball in 2014.
Yep,
and then you played pro ball, but we'll get into that a little bit too. Anyways, so you know the question I'm going to ask, but for new listeners, maybe there are new listeners, hopefully there are, amazing, welcome to the show. But the question I asked, the question that my podcast is centered around, is this question, because I think if we answer it openly and honestly and introspectively, we can create more connection between each other, and connection creates more unity, it creates more love, which is what's most important, right? Love, intimate relationships with those around you, whether friends, whether romantic, whether family members, whether random people you meet on the street. Asking and answering this question honestly when you have the space to do so is very important. So Tyler, I've asked you this on and off camera, but how are you doing? Like for real, for real?
Good. Yeah, I think life throws things at you, trials and tribulations. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, very, very good. I think all of those things that you encounter make you for who you are. Sometimes they're tougher than others, and I'm not one to sit here and complain. I think a lot of people have it worse, but I think I'm good. It took me a while. There was times where I was low, struggling. But I found my peace, and I'm chilling. I'm good.
Was there any specific actions that you took to find that peace? Or was it just some time, some patience, some persistence?
Yeah, I think every person's different. I would like to picture myself as a resilient human being. So, some people might need more help than I needed, right? Mm-hmm. I think... having a brother like mine allows me to put things into perspective a whole lot easier than it would be for someone, that maybe doesn't have that
situation.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So for me, I think it was just time, and you always have problems in your life. I don't care who you are. Some minor, some major, depending on who is viewing those, mm-hmm. right? But I think mine were fairly minor, and I'm able to get through them. I still got a few, here and there, but I think that's just life, and I'm good though. I was able just to deal with it maybe differently than another human would. Yeah.
I mean, perspective and individual experience. You have to take those into account when looking at, what a struggle might be to someone, or what a trauma might be to someone, or what a pain might be to someone, because two people can perceive to be experiencing the exact same thing, but view it in a totally different way.
Correct.
Like for someone, it could be just like another day. For another person, it could be trauma with a big T. And so perspective and taking account into how you grew up, where you grew up, your individual experience, what your caregivers taught you, how you learned to handle those types of things, play a huge role in that.
Yeah.
And play a huge role in overcoming those types of things as well.
Correct.
Which everyone can overcome basically anything. I think we've been shown that over the last couple years as a collective, right? That we're much more resilient than we give ourselves credit for, and that, yes, there are loads of things that we are afraid of, but we're tougher than those things. And that's super important. So yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing.
No problem.
So I had a thought. Actually, we had a collective thought, me and the people that are staying in this house, when we were driving down the road to the Walmart to get some supplies and then eventually down to Garden of the Gods, that we're only here for a few days here in Colorado. And the scenes here, the mountains, the nature, the vibes, the atmosphere is much different than where I currently live, which is in Plano, Texas, or Dallas, Texas. And so seeing all the mountains and the scenery is like, every time you see it, it's like a magical, breathtaking moment for us, right? Being here in a very short, limited amount of time. So we had a thought that, is it the same for someone who lives in Woodland Park and they see this?
No chance.
And they see this every day, and they've been seeing this every day. So for someone who's lived here for a while, but also maybe lived other places for a bit,
Right. Yeah.
what thoughts do you have on that?
Well, so like obviously I'm a little bit different than your normal average human who doesn't get to travel, right? I've been to 48 states. I've lived in 9 different states. And so coming back for me, I view it the same way that you do, right? But maybe a little bit differently because I've seen it my whole life. But you definitely don't view it the same. It's the same as anything else. When you go to Texas, just for instance, like I'm a sports guy, right? So seeing Dallas Cowboys Stadium is different when you see it for the first time. But when you drive past it to go to work every day, you probably don't even notice it anymore, right? So it's the same thing. Now, like the mountains are a little more prestigious than just the stadium, right? But yeah, at the same time, you see it every day. It just becomes like normal, right? And every once in a while, you'll catch yourself, maybe just me, I don't know. I'd say I like to think that other people do this as well, but I couldn't speak for them. You catch yourself like, and you think to yourself, well, I should probably view this, right? Like I should look at this. And I'd say certain parts of the state are a little bit different. Like when I go up to Telluride or Aspen, I don't see that every day. And that's even a completely different perspective than it is here. Like you got mountains and stuff, you got snow here, but it ain't even close to the same. I think that like the northwestern, western part of Colorado in the mountains is the most beautiful part of the entire country. That's a personal opinion, obviously. So when I go there, you view it, right? Viewing it is different, right? But like I see it, you know what I mean? And here you it's just part of your everyday life.
It's part of your backyard.
Yeah. And I would say that not everyone in Colorado is the same. There's people that live south or east, and there's literally no mountains.
Right.
It's like Nebraska, right? So those people that come this way see it. But if you see it every day, for sure, I think that's with anything. It just becomes normal. Like your brain, you forget to view it. You still see it, but you don't see it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's like the basis of gratitude, right? Or
Yep.
or what I like to call it is being a researcher of the good. So in terms of, there's an exercise that you can do to become more of a researcher of the good, or to build more fundamental optimism in your life, which relates to gratitude a lot, right? Optimism is the fundamental belief that things are going to work out for the best through the proper effort, attention, and time, right? Not just naive optimism that whatever, right? But real, actual optimism, right? But that goes into, if you're an optimistic person, you're more grateful and you can see the things in your life that are beautiful, right? But if you want to become a researcher good, or more optimistic and see the beauty in life, you have to do it. You have to force yourself to see those things. And I tell people to write down 3 amazing things that happen to them every single day for the next 30 days. And so when they hear words amazing, they're thinking of like these huge monumental moments that happen in their life. And those don't happen every day. The amazing moments that happen every day are the small, mundane type of things that we take for granted because they've become invisible, right? So an amazing moment could be that Tyler's at the grocery store with his mom, and he opens the door for a lady carrying her groceries, and she says thank you, and they have a smile, right? Because she couldn't get the door because she's carrying her groceries. That interaction right there, if we're present enough to see it, could be an amazing moment, right? Or Tyler asks if he could take the one of the lady's groceries to her car with her because she seems like she's struggling. That's an amazing moment for both people, right? But those are the small things that we could write down at the end of the day that aren't small, but we say are small, that are amazing moments that we need to look at to become more of a researcher of the good. And the same thing with like having a mountain in your backyard, or having a grocery store to go to every day that works, that has food that people are working at, that you can supply yourself with, right? We tend to not see what's in front of us when it becomes automatic.
Yeah.
And so taking a step back from that and being able to realize how amazing and significant some of these things are that we take for granted every day is when we start to become a researcher of the good. We start to build more optimism, and we start to build an actual gratitude practice, not this like pretend gratitude practice that's about like, anyways, that's like all over Instagram, but still like really actually building a fundamental belief in how thankful we are for our life. And so I think that plays a role into literally exactly how you just explained it. And I just explained it in like a more scientific way, but yeah. Does that make sense to you?
I agree with you, yeah.
So I think that's cool. Because I fall into the same trap. Like, I'm only saying this because I need the same information as well, and I have to do this work every day to make sure that I'm finding the good in my life.
Well, I mean, your brain is trained to work a way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And in order to get it to work another way,
you have to train it.
Exactly.
You have to train it. You have to train the mental skills and the mental reps. And I don't want to live a life where I'm not present of all these things that I'm potentially missing, like the beauty of nature, right? How cool is the infrastructure that I can drive from Texas to Colorado basically on one road? Someone built that. Like, that's incredible shit. And I can do it safely in a car. Wow, unbelievable. What? Safely, yeah. Like, God willing, right? There's a lot of unpredictable factors, right? Sure. But like, that stuff is incredibly amazing. And I've been trying to train myself to see that more often. It's really hard, mm-hmm. right? When you haven't done it for so long. But it goes to show you that you can change, right? You can grow, you can adapt, you can overcome these types of things. So that's really cool. Thanks for saying that. Cool. Anyways, any more to say on that?
No.
Okay.
Kind of.
Okay.
I don't think that there is anything quite like the mountains in the correct place for mental health.
No, it's amazing.
It's a different type of experience. Like, even if you get down to the minute details of just breathing in the air,
it's like,
it feels different.
Uh-huh.
It's right. Everything about it is different.
Yeah.
So I think that it can kind of cleanse your soul almost.
100%.
Right? Yeah, that's what I had to say.
That's why getting outside, going for a walk, moving your body outside, appreciating nature are some of the tools that you can have in your toolbox for improving your mental health. Something that you should do daily. And that can be part of anyone's life, no matter really where you live, right? You might have some nuances and complications about where you might live to fix that, but sure. You can always get outside, at least
exercise,
for a little bit, right? And move your body and honor your body in that way so that it's honoring you back. And
for sure.
I think that's important.
I think throughout my hardest times recently, mm-hmm. the thing that helped me the most was exercise.
Beautiful.
Right? I think it just, for some reasons, the way your body's built, like, you exert energy outward, mm-hmm. and a lot of time that is the negative, right?
Yeah.
So
you're releasing those.
And if you can combine the two, mountains and exercise, whether that's hiking or running, whatever it might be for you, mm-hmm. prospectively, mm-hmm. right, is one of the greatest things that. I believe in God. That's a different subject, mm-hmm. right? Different topic. Mm-hmm. But I believe He made this for a reason.
Sure.
And it is good for our soul.
Good for our soul.
Yeah.
Good for our mental health.
Right.
Absolutely. That was a great opening. Well done. All right, let's flip the script a little bit.
Cool.
Let's go into, besides Colorado and the mountains and nature, another one of your favorite subjects. Maybe your most favorite subject.
By far my most favorite.
Which is sports.
Yeah. No question.
Background on Tyler, played Division I baseball with me at South Dakota State. He went on to play a little bit of pro ball with
Two different levels, yeah.
2 different levels of professional baseball with another guest that I've had regularly on here, Sam Pack, which is another guy we played baseball with. They played together on a few times on one team.
I mean, my first year we needed a catcher at the end. We said, hey, I know a guy. I said, I know a guy. I called Sam. He came for like 10 games.
Yeah.
Don't know the answer. Then obviously he did good, so I called him again.
Yeah. And you made it all the way up to play for the Sioux Falls Canaries?
Yes, and Joplin.
And
both,
Joplin.
which is, double A.
Independent.
Yep. American Association.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So that's your background in baseball specifically.
Correct.
Now, as an adult who just is like a big fan of sports, what are your favorite sports?
Football, no question, is by far my favorite sport.
Football number 1.
No doubt. No doubt. I think it's the greatest sport ever. There's a lot of intricate details that you probably don't see as just like a normal casual watcher. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that goes into that stuff on game day throughout the whole week. The amount of preparation and effort is absolutely fascinating to me.
Yeah, Tyler's been sending Al, or another friend of ours, some texts about some breakdowns of some plays and defenses and things that go into certain offensive or defensive play calling. And there was that video a while back on Twitter about that receiver from the Rams, right?
Cooper Kupp, yep.
Like breaking down why he did this route, why he got open, and how he made it. And it was like super intense. And you think to yourself, a lot of people think that athletes are just jocks.
Yeah.
But that's just not true. Like, especially when you get to the highest levels, you have to have
brains.
A lot of knowledge about the play calling, about the other defense, about what routes you might want to take. You have to be super in sync with your quarterback. And he explained that in like a 15 to 20 second clip that nobody understood. And then...
Not nobody.
Well, you get my point, right?
Yep.
Very few people understood. Then Emmanuel Ocho, who's another Division I football player, and he played professionally.
Yep.
Super amazing guy. You should definitely follow him. But he broke it down in a video, and then we watched both of those, and then Tyler sent us like some clips, or some text clips about breaking it down, and it was like pretty sweet how much just one play call of a receiver getting open the end zone, what like the path to breaking that down is and how you understand it on a level to get that touchdown.
Yeah. And basically, what we still explained, even those things, like it seems like a far-fetched, detailed thing, but in reality, he gave you very, very general terms. And it goes, so deep, and it's crazy. It really is. It really is. It's very detail-oriented sport that you probably don't see because all you see is headbanging, right?
Right. You just see the end result of all the hard work.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My second favorite sport would be hard because I don't know the answer to that. Mm-hmm. I'd say probably baseball just because I know a lot about it.
Yeah.
Throughout my whole years of doing this, you learn different things. I think I learned more in American Association than I could have learned ever anywhere. Just because you're with, like I played with Repco. It has a World Series ring. So you just and I'm more of a guy who's like a sponge, right? I have my own opinions. I let those be known, but I also will be a sponge and listen to those who have more knowledge or perceive more knowledge, maybe.
Sure.
So I learned a lot then. So I would say baseball probably just because of the knowledge, but I honestly don't think watching it is my favorite thing to do. I like the playoffs, but if there was football or baseball on, I'd probably choose that. I really enjoy watching hockey. I've read like 3 or 4 hockey books over the last few years because I didn't understand necessarily the rules or like the dynamic of it. And obviously me being a sports guy, I understand that there's details that you could never fathom within those sports. So I like to get the information on that. Over the years, I've grown more fond of hockey. I think it's an incredible sport, and I'm more on the vicious sports, right? Like I like the brutal.
Yeah, you like UFC.
Love UFC. I grew up with that though, right? That's my dad.
Right.
Like boxing and UFC, martial arts. My dad was a black belt in karate. Fought Randy Couture in the UFC and MMA, not UFC, but MMA. And so I grew up with that. That's kind of in my blood,
Right.
So yeah, some of UFC is kind of hard for me. I don't like the brutal injuries of like leg kicks, and I think those should be banned and stuff because people are snapping their legs and stuff. I don't like to watch that stuff, but I don't mind watching people getting punched in the face and bleeding a little bit, purely because you have the choice to do so, right? No one's forcing these people to get in there, so if they get in there, I can understand how on the opposite end people wouldn't watch it and say negative things about it. But personally, I enjoy it. I understand the technicalities of all of this. There's so much that goes into that too.
Yeah. Just the same way you think about football, right? You think about all these other sports, the same thing can be said. But specifically UFC, right? The fans watching, right, is just entertainment for them, right?
Yeah, it's more like a gladiator type experience, right?
Yeah, coming from a guy, right, who does professional wrestling, right, which is majority an entertainment sport, right? But there is a lot of back end stuff that has to be perfectly executed for me and my opponent to stay safe while we entertain the fans.
Right. And now that's even more scripted than the UFC, right? There's no script.
Yeah, everything is.
You're getting in and getting punched in the face.
Everything in the UFC outside of the ring is scripted.
Right, 100%.
Everything outside of the they took that idea from WWE, right? How do you sell a fight?
Yep.
How do we sell The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin? Okay, we sell it. We sell it as this. We build promos. We have heated rivalries. We bring this stuff in. One guy win. One guy talks shit. One guy's the good guy, the bad guy, whatever. Right? Boom. They have the match. People go nuts.
Yeah.
So all that stuff on the outside of the ring.
Yeah.
And then WWE's obviously scripted inside the ring as well because we're basically pretending to do a fight. Right? There's a lot of risk involved, high level of risk involved. If you're not a consummate professional, you don't know exactly what you're doing with your kicks and your punches and dropping people very close to their head and all these things. That's why injuries happen. UFC took that, added it to their fight game, to the promos and the packages and the Conor McGregors, right? But once they get in the octagon, they are actively trying to beat the shit out of someone. But that's the only thing that the outside fan sees. Yeah. They also have a game plan.
Right.
Because they know the other guy's game plan. Okay, he leans this way.
Yeah, there's a chess match.
He throws two jabs and a kick. Okay, how do I avoid that kick, but I counter the kick? He likes to go for the rear naked choke. How do I think of his counter while I'm thinking of my counter while his counter is countering that counter?
All while getting punched in the face.
All while someone's trying to beat the shit out of you, right?
Yeah.
And so it's not just, goes back to my saying of like the dumb jock. Like that really bothers me.
Me too.
Because
it's not possible.
You can obviously speak on this as well, but going back to college, if you're a Division I athlete, you are doing a full-time job while being an athlete, and you are going to school, which is also a full-time job. Yeah. Like, all of us got good grades, relatively speaking, right? It's hard, beats.
My situation different, right? Most of you guys tried. Yep.
Yeah, we tried.
Yep.
We tried. And so you can't get any of that stuff done by just, like, being what people think that athletes are. And so I think that's something, at least in this episode, the point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, I think you can be, quote unquote quotations, a dumb jock, even at the Division I level. And I can explain that because I think that some of the higher end schools, you play football at Alabama, bro, it don't matter. They're going to take care of you.
Sure.
Right? Different topic, different thing, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, they have to be intelligent about the sport that they play.
Right. Like, they have to be specialized just like anyone else.
You don't have to be an intelligent person, right, per se, right, at some of these schools. Sure. At our school, you did, right? Like you.
Yeah, no one was giving us a break.
Right, you don't get a break like you do at Alabama football.
State. You get it done.
Right. So, yeah, it's a little bit different, right? But yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I think you can be, quote unquote quotations, dumber, right? Less intelligent than the average human being at some of the schools. But for the most part, you're 100% spot on. And you have to be intelligent about the sport that you're playing or you won't play.
Right. Well, it's just like any other specialized position, right? If I'm trying to hire a plumber, all I care about is that they're really good at plumbing.
Right.
I'm not going to ask them to come to my house and do mathematics.
Yep.
Because that's not their specialty.
Correct.
They're specializing in plumbing. Right. I called them over to my house because they're specialized in that.
Yep.
So if I'm a defensive end at Alabama, I'm still specialized in that portion and I'm really good at that job.
Right.
Not to say that you can't be well-rounded in multiple areas, right? Especially if you're like a handyman relating it back to plumbing, but that's unimportant and super off tangent. But exactly what your point is. I think it's great. So.
And get back to your point about all favorite sport or whatever, it's hard to choose. NFL, no question. And college football, by far my favorite. NFL is the number one. But I love all sports.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't know much about soccer. Learned about it because I'm interested in that. I think it's crazy. I hate the flopping. We'll talk about that. We talk about that another time. But I understand why they do it with the cards and different things like that. I understand the rules. I read books about that too. Soccer fascinates me because of the amount of people that watch this sport. Right? It's different. It's not an Americanized sport. Mm-hmm. It's different. Right? And yeah, there's a lot of sports. My good buddy of ours that went to school with us, Michael Finicaro, he is infatuated with tennis. He plays tennis all the time.
Yeah, I love tennis. I think it's an amazing sport.
He told me he wishes that he had my body because he would be a professional tennis player because he's too small to play tennis, apparently. So then I learned about that. I listened to him. I watched stuff like that. I figured out my favorite player. Mm. So now I watch him when he's like, the Australian Open is going on right now. It's one of the biggest tournaments, if not the biggest tournament.
Right.
So whenever Stefanos Tsitsipas plays, he's from Greece, I turn it on and watch it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I just enjoy sports, right? So I don't know if necessarily there is like a list of favorite sports, like in order, but there's number one and then the rest fall behind.
Okay. I have 2 questions for you.
Beautiful.
I'm not sure. Okay, so I'll leave this one is about sport. The last one is about sports. It would fit in this conversation right now, but I'll leave it to the end. Okay. I think it's a good ender. This one's about football.
Yeah.
2 questions regarding football. Today is January 20th, 2022. I think this episode will either come out right before or right after the Super Bowl. Who wins the Super Bowl?
At the beginning of the season, I sports gamble a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Colorado's legal. I picked the Rams to lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
Is that still your pick?
That is a significantly big odded bet that I took.
That's alive and well right now.
That is super alive and well.
That's cool.
I actually think I'm incorrect though.
Okay, so let's get it clear, right? So you put a bet at the very beginning of the NFL season,
correct,
for the Chiefs
to beat the Rams,
to beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. Now that we have the second round of the playoffs happening starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I could have told you in week 14 that I was incorrect.
So who do you think now?
Green Bay Packers versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and I don't think anybody is beating the Green Bay Packers.
So you think Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers winning the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and I don't even think it's because of Aaron Rodgers.
Wow.
I think it's Aaron Rodgers. You get what I'm saying? But he will not be the reason that they win. Someone
else will.
Yeah, their defense is about to, Their defense has been doing it all year without Za'Darius, without Jair. Rasul Douglas had to step up, make big plays. Now he gets to go back to the other side because Jair's back. They get their guys back. Whitney Merciless. I mean, bro, they got guys all over the field on the defensive side. Homeboy, defensive tackle's back. I don't see how a team currently can score enough to beat Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams. Unreal. If Robert Tonyan was playing for the Green Bay Packers out torn ACL, if he was playing for the Packers, there would be absolutely no question I would put everything that I have money-wise on the Green Bay Packers. He is a difference maker, so it's a little tougher. The Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs are very, very good. So this game this week between the Bills and the Chiefs, you can quote me on it. Whoever wins that game will be in the Super Bowl. The Tennessee Titans or Cincinnati Bengals cannot be either of those teams.
Okay, circle back to this episode to keep Tyler accountable on his picks.
Keep me accountable.
And send us some notes about it. Last question about football before we go into the final question.
Yes.
Who's your league MVP?
Aaron Rodgers, there's no question. I realize Tom Brady has better yards, this, that. If you look into the detailed stats of the season, Aaron Rodgers only throwing 4 interceptions while being in the top 3 of most times thrown past 25 yards is absolutely the most crazy thing that I've seen in a long, long time. His team being number 1 in the in the NFC, where Tom Brady was not. The trials and tribulations that the Packers have had, obviously Devontae Adams has been healthy all year. The Bucs have had some too, Leonard Fournette, Evans, Godwin, a few things here, Gronkowski being hurt a few times. All in all, there's way more talent if you had full healthy players on Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think what Aaron Rodgers has done with the 37-4 is crazy. It's nothing like it I've ever seen, to be honest with you.
To be clear, that's 37
touchdowns,
passes,
4 interceptions.
over a 17-game NFL season, which is incredibly efficient, while probably being in the top 5 in yards thrown.
Yes.
Probably, I think. I'm not sure.
He is.
Okay.
It's close.
Maybe.
He's like 6 or 7, probably.
Yeah.
The thing is that the top 6 touchdown interception ratios are all Aaron Rodgers. He's so good at manipulating the defense and not being able. He manages his risk, right? Like we talk about risk versus reward in real life. There's that in football as well. When you throw the ball over the 25 yards, the risk goes up significant, right? The ball's in the air longer. These guys are so fast and they understand their coverages and stuff like that. They understand by film what Devontae Adams is going to do on this particular route, and they can read that a little bit. So what Aaron Rodgers does is crazy, only throwing 4 interceptions. Playing a full season minus a game is on a broken toe. Mm-hmm. Like, people don't understand what the broken toe does to a quarterback. It's crazy. I have no question, no doubt in my mind that he should win, and if he doesn't win, it's purely a manipulated corporational over COVID.
Yeah, we don't have to go in far depth in that, but
right.
there's something there.
Stats based wise, there's no question.
Yeah, he's the MVP of the league. I agree too.
Yep.
Based on his numbers as an NFL football player.
Correct.
In the NFL.
Yep.
He is the MVP of the league.
Yes.
Circles back exactly to what we just talked about. He's a highly intelligent, highly motivated, highly skilled professional football player, especially at the quarterback position.
Oh man.
Beautiful.
One of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, I agree. I would take him on my team any day. And he went to Cal Berkeley, which is where my dad went, and so
it's cool.
That's cool school. Anyways, all right, final question. Bring it all back together, from all what we talked about.
The big thing.
Optimism, gratitude, nature, mental health, sports, all the way leading up to why do you think it's important for kids to play sports?
Oh, brilliant question. I think that sports are unlike anything else in this world, purely because of the amount of positive things that it brings to you. We're talking about character. We're talking about resiliency. We're talking about being a part of a team. We're talking about communication. We're talking about learning how to accept failure and to work past that failure. I could go on with lists and lists of good things that come from it, and I don't think that there's anything like it. Most of your life, even in the workforce, I would say 75% of the time you're working as part of a team. Maybe even more than that, right? Because the team might not be individually like me and you are working together on this project, but I'm working on this project so that he can work on this project, so that he can work on this project, and then we have an end goal in sight for the corporation,
it's all
right?
Synergistically.
Right, so it's all together, right? And that's what sports is, right? Say, for instance, I'm a quarterback. I can't control the job of the wide receiver. Now, I can control it partially, like you can consider the quarterback the CEO. He'll tell this guy how and what to do, right? But he can't do it for him.
He still has to do it.
Right, so we're part of a team here to become, we have an end goal. And we all have to work together, from the lineman to the quarterback to the wide receivers to the tight end, to everyone has to work together to perform one objective per play that goes to the next one, that goes to the next one, to eventually get our end goal of winning, right? And that's the same for a corporation, same for a small business, same for anything, same for life. I think if you try to go through life by yourself, way, I don't want to say too difficult, because I think that some people can handle it, but some can't. And so I think it's harder. I think you have to have people in your corner. You have to have people you can communicate with. You have to have people that you can trust. Same for any sport. If you can't trust the person behind you, you're doomed. So I think it allows you to, so many things. I mean, it's crazy. It allows you to take a step back, kind of like a trust fall almost, right? You have to learn how to be able to let go for a second and understand that you can trust him, right? To build the strength within yourself to be able to allow someone to provide that energy or whatever it is for you to trust them. If you never open up to that, whatever. And I think
you're missing out on something special.
Right, and I think sports does that subconsciously. Right? I think there's a lot of things that you grow Yeah, I mean, yeah. It's the same as like making your bed every morning. You learn to have, I don't know what word I'm looking for here.
A commitment, a discipline.
A discipline, right? Yeah. Out of everything that it creates integrity and discipline. You have to work at this. I think it teaches you work ethic as well.
For sure.
There's a lot. I think sports is something unlike anything else. I don't think that's necessarily why I am so tied into it. I think that might be a partial bit for me personally. Mine's more of detail oriented, right? Understanding the work ethic, the details, and all of the stuff that goes with all of these professional sports, even like college level to a certain extent.
Yeah, high level college for sure.
Yeah. Then you even get even further, right?
Yeah.
Like pros even further. And then you get the big leagues and you get, it's even further and even further. And I think the difference between the people obviously is God-given talent. But all of those people up at that NFL level or MLB level or whatever worked so hard to get to that point. I think that's kind of misunderstood maybe. That people just think that they're freaks in nature. You think Barry Bonds was just a freak?
No.
I do.
Well,
partially.
It's constant, consistent effort on top of what you might have been given, right?
Yep. It's here.
And then, of course.
And here.
Yeah, of course it's in the mental. Everyone who watches this podcast knows that I believe that to be true.
Yep.
Yeah, I think an important role that sports played in my life, because I think sports in general, especially for a young person, they parallel life, right? And they teach you a lot of valuable lessons that are going to be hard to be taught elsewhere in life, and they could be taught elsewhere in life in a more painful manner.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to get taught those lessons because you have to.
Yep.
But it might be in a different scenario or situation than what you could have learned in a field, a court, whatever, in a sports dynamic. And I think what it taught me the most is that if you're going to go into something that you truly love, you have to expect it to be a long process before anything good happens.
Can I change the word good?
Sure.
Because I think that involving yourself in any of that is great, to be honest with you. And I think that when you're performing these activities, sports, it's good.
Yeah.
Right? I understand where you're coming from. You're saying like good in life, right?
No, I'm saying good at your sport.
Right.
Like, so for
some people.
Let me give an example of what I mean, how it relates, right? I started playing baseball at the age of 4.
Yep. I started at 3. Yep.
I stopped playing baseball at the age of 22.
Yep.
So I didn't feel like I was any good at baseball until my junior year of college. So that was, 15 years in. What's 15 plus 4? 19? Yeah. So I didn't feel like I was any good at baseball until 15 years after I started playing. Now that was just a personal perception.
Correct.
Right? Obviously I was, or maybe it wasn't obvious, I was decent at baseball enough to do whatever I did in the sport. But personally, on an internal level, like having actual genuine confidence, because we pretend to have confidence for a long time in sports, but you build real, actual anti-fragile confidence through a lot of different ways. But that's a subject for a different matter, or never mind. Anyways, I'm sure I've talked about it on a podcast, confidence. But the point being is that I didn't feel actually confident, like really confident every time I stepped on the baseball field until about 15 years deep into my career. And so if we can have, I'm not saying every endeavor that you take, it's going to take you 15 years to feel confident in that endeavor, but I'm saying if you're willing to invest in the long term in something that means something to you, there will always be positive dividends at the end. And so I talked about goals and intentions and resolutions in a previous podcast that came out. And if your goal is to lose 150 pounds, like that's your goal, you cannot expect your body to be completely different within 3 months. Right? You have to give yourself a long time to do something that is long-term and sustainable over the course of your life. And so sports make you realize that you enter in a profession or a field or a hobby or something that you're curious about as a fool. I didn't know how to throw a baseball when I first started. I was a fool when I entered. But entering as a fool or entering with a beginner's mindset is the only way to reach a level of self-mastery or mastery in said sport. And so that's what I extrapolated from sports. So when I got into the podcasting game or the wrestling game or being an entrepreneur or starting any of my own business or being whatever that is, right? I knew that I was a fool at the beginning of those endeavors, but I jumped in anyways because I had passion for it. And now 82 episodes in, I'm decent at hosting a podcast. I'm not as good as like Tim Ferriss or Rich Roll or these guys that do it for a living, right? I'm just started being an entrepreneur. I'm decent at it, but I'm willing to not have it figured out to eventually sort of have it figured out. Does that make sense?
100%.
And so that's what I took from sports, and it's helped me in all areas of my life to be able to jump into the deep end while really not knowing how to swim, but doggy paddling to get out of the deep end until I had it figured out. And then still knowing once I thought I had it figured out that I don't have it figured out, but still moving forward anyways, and having learned and gained and grown along the way and towards this path. Because like there's this like mountaintop, right? There's a mountaintop that people think they're going to reach when they start aiming at things. But that mountaintop just keeps getting farther and farther away because the process is really where the beauty lies.
Right.
And so you should just keep extending that out, but you have to celebrate along the way. Like I've celebrated every step along the way in terms of my businesses, them being profitable, making money off this, or having a guest here, 7 people viewing this episode, or whatever the case may be. Is all that stuff is just amazing stuff along the way, and that's what I learned from sports, on top of all of the things that you said, right? Teamwork, honesty, integrity, hard work, right? Those are the basic ones that people think about. Yep. But I'm thinking about like, this is how you can practically apply something in sport for anyone who's listening, who's just ending their sports career, right? Who may be a Division I athlete or any athlete that's just ending, right? You can...
Tough.
It's very hard.
Tough.
Very hard. But you can remove all of those strengths that you associated only with being an athlete into other areas of your life. And there's other passions, there's other things that you're curious about that you can aim at to add meaning in your life once again that's not related to sport.
Or it could be in sports. You don't have to tell them that, you know.
Oh, yeah, of course it can be in sport, but it's not going to be as an athlete, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It can be doing other thing in sport, but that's also a different mindset to get in.
Right.
Like you're not the one on the field competing. Maybe you're coaching the people who are on the field competing, or maybe you're the back end, maybe you're the agent, maybe you're trying to get people the money that they deserve because you didn't have that up. Whatever the case may be is, right? There's a lot of things, but you need to extrapolate those strengths and add them to something else because they're there, they're yours, they're intrinsic.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. The number one thing I think sports does for you is resiliency, because you are going to fail. Yep. Like there's no question, 100% you will fail. Especially if you're a baseball player, you're going to fail 7 out of 10 times. Yeah. And if you do that, you're really good, to be honest. So, yeah, I think it teaches you a lot of different things. I think I got lucky enough to be good at a sport that has that. Some sports you don't fail as much.
Right.
You do, like you're going to fail, but yeah.
Yeah. Failure is part of the journey. Failure is a beautiful part, and it's an important part. It's a necessary part, and it's an inevitable part.
Yeah.
So accept it, learn from it, grow from it, and go from there.
I think your people who didn't play sports have a harder time with failure.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'm speaking in general, right? I don't want to say like an individual person, right? Because each people are different.
All general. This is all generally speaking.
Right.
We don't know people's lives.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're speaking from our own experience, generally.
My resilience came a few times, but in reality, like you said, you didn't think you were a good baseball till junior year. I'm going to tell you right now, I had confidence in myself since I was 3. I saw videos of myself when I was 3. I was playing with 5-year-olds. I'm literally in the outfield grabbing the ball, running, touching second, touching first, doing it all by myself. I had it figured out at that young age. And I had it all the way figured out. In high school, I was an All-American, right? I had it figured out. I was the real deal. And then I got to my freshman year, and I was the only freshman that traveled. Didn't play much. Understood why. Freshman. Went to JUCO. Had an incredible year. Probably signed with SDSU too early, to be honest with you. But it happened. Not regretful of that at all. But I'm going to tell you right now, when I got to SDSU, the coaches ruined me. I was not the same baseball player I was. I was actually garbage comparatively. Had zero confidence. Had everything changed about me. Was not my same self at all. So in order to become who I thought I was, who I was, I missed out on 2 years of getting better. Mm-hmm. So those 2 years are probably the most important in terms of growth for that individual sport.
Right.
I missed out on that. So the process from that to going to pro sports was very difficult because nobody, and I mean nobody, told me or said, you can be a professional athlete considering what my numbers and what I did at SDSU. right? So that's where, when I talk about my personal experience, the resiliency and having confidence in myself when everyone else did not, and it got completely shut out. Don't know how I was able to do it, to be completely honest with you. A lot of long, hard conversations with my parents, some other folks, maybe you, to be honest, I don't know, don't really remember that, but yeah, it was that honestly, I think is what tied me to sports even more, especially when I was able to partially conquer that. So obviously my story is a little different than yours.
Yeah, they're all different.
Exactly. Which is, I think in the long, obviously we went a long way around this, but to tie it all together, I think that's what makes it special.
Yeah.
Is that everyone's different, but it's all the same. Right? There's always resiliency. There's always... Yeah.
Yeah, the core values that you can get from sports are all the same. And they're all the same for anything that you find meaningful and purposeful in your life that allows you to aim at something. Right? So whatever you find passion in, whatever you find purpose in, allows you to it allows it to be a vehicle in your life to move you forward in the direction that you want to go to, which is more character driven, more value driven, more responsibility driven. That's what sports did for us. I'm not sure what it could be for the viewer or the listener.
It could also just be an entertainment.
It could be anything. It doesn't have to be. It could
You
be
know what I
anything.
mean?
It could be anything that you're curious about.
You don't have to feel the same way that I do.
Of course, you don't have to feel the same way.
Actually,
at all.
probably 99% of people probably don't feel that way.
No, but
Right?
But they're going to feel how they feel about a certain subject.
Correct.
Which could give them the same type of emotional response it did for you, the same resiliency, the same grit, the same attitude about teamwork, and things of that nature. And that's the point of having these conversations. Right? Your story has obviously a very personal touch to it, but someone hears it, it resonates with them, and then they apply that to their own life in an inward way of thinking about it deeply, and then translating it, and then transforming their own life. And that's all that it means. So, thanks, Tyler.
Welcome.
Beautiful chat. Love you. Love to see you.
Love to see you too.
I'll see you in March.
Yep.
And thank you for watching episode 82 of Jaxon Talks, everybody. Share this episode with your best friend, and then send the episode, then text them after. Tell them how much you love them. Tell them how much they mean to you. Watch this episode together. Let me know what resonates with you. I'll share it with Tyler. I appreciate the community we're starting here, or have started and growing here at Jaxon Talks, everybody. Hope this finds you doing really well, and I'll see you next time.